For decades, Sarah Ferguson has been the royal family's great survivor. She's weathered divorce, debt, and toe-sucking scandals that would have permanently exiled anyone else. But her ties to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein? That's different. This isn't just another royal embarrassment she can ride out with a tell-all interview or a new children's book. The reason she will never come back from this is buried in her own words. It's a single, devastating truth revealed in leaked emails that has caused her entire charitable legacy to crumble. It's not just about a questionable friendship. It's about a moral collapse so profound it has shattered the very foundation of her public identity. And it's the one thing the public and the institutions she built her life around will never forgive. To really get why this is so devastating, you have to remember just how good she was at surviving. When Sarah Ferguson married Prince Andrew in 1986, she was a breath of fresh air. Nicknamed Fergie, she was seen as fun and down-to-earth, a lively spirit in the stuffy House of Windsor. She took on royal tours, and, for a while, she was genuinely popular. But that image didn't last. The 1990s brought a storm of public humiliation, from those infamous photos of a Texas businessman kissing her toes while she was still married, to crushing debts that haunted her for years. Her 1996 divorce from Prince Andrew seemed like the end of her royal chapter. Stripped of her Royal Highness title, she was an outsider. And yet, against all odds, she started building a new identity. She became a successful children's author, a spokesperson for Weight Watchers, and most importantly, a dedicated philanthropist. She founded charities like Children in Crisis and, later, Sarah's Trust, becoming a patron for causes helping children and cancer patients. This was her redemption story. She wasn't just the scandalous Duchess anymore. She was a woman who had weathered every storm and dedicated her life to helping others. She was a survivor. She had proven, again and again, that she could bounce back from almost anything. But her greatest test was still to come, and it would grow from a friendship forged in the shadows of wealth and desperation, a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. This relationship wouldn't just tarnish her image. It would tear down the persona she had spent 3 decades trying to build. The story of Sarah Ferguson and Jeffrey Epstein is a tale of financial desperation meeting predatory opportunism. Their connection wasn't just a passing acquaintance. It was a sustained relationship that continued even after Epstein was a convicted sex offender. He was jailed in 2008 for soliciting prostitution from a minor, a very public fact. And yet, the Duchess' dealings with him carried on, fueled by a financial mess that seemed to have no way out. By 2009, her lifestyle company, Heartmore, was failing and her debts were reportedly in the hundreds of thousands. In that state of desperation, she turned to Epstein. In June 2009, while he was still in jail in Florida, emails reportedly show her asking him for business advice. Her messages weren't from some distant acquaintance. One email from August 2009, sent after Epstein had organized a lunch for her and her daughters, was gushing. In it, she reportedly called him the brother I have always wished for. The money problems deepened. An email from October 2009 reportedly shows her in a panic, writing to Epstein, "I urgently need £20,000 for rent today. The landlord has threatened to go to the newspapers if I don't pay." The requests got bigger. In January 2010, another email reportedly showed her asking for $50,000 or $100,000 to help get through the small bills that are pushing me over. The most infamous transaction came to light in March 2011. It was revealed that Epstein had arranged a payment of £15,000 to one of Ferguson's former aides to settle a debt. The public outcry was immediate. A member of the royal family, a children's author and philanthropist, was taking money from a convicted sex offender. The scandal forced Ferguson into damage control. She gave a public statement, calling her decision a gigantic error of judgment. She was crystal clear, telling a newspaper, "I abhor pedophilia and any sexual abuse of children. Whenever I can, I will repay the money and have nothing ever to do with Jeffrey Epstein ever again." On the surface, it was a total disavowal, a line in the sand. It seemed like just another scandal she might survive, another mistake she had publicly apologized for. But what was happening in private told a completely different and much more damning story. Just 1 month after publicly declaring she would have nothing ever to do with Jeffrey Epstein ever again, Sarah Ferguson was privately doing the exact opposite. In April 2011, she sat down and wrote an email to the very man she had just disowned. This email, hidden for over a decade before being leaked in late 2025, would become the single most destructive piece of evidence against her. It wasn't an email of anger or a final goodbye. It was an apology. "I know you feel hellaciously let down by me," she reportedly wrote, "and I must humbly apologize to you and your heart for that." The tone was groveling and desperate, but it was the praise she showered on him that truly sealed her fate. She described Epstein as a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend to me and my family. Let that sink in. A supreme friend. This wasn't some formal note vetted by lawyers. This was a personal, emotional appeal to a predator, sent just weeks after she had assured the public of her disgust for his world. Her team's explanation, offered years later when the emails were finally exposed, was that she wrote it under duress. They claimed Epstein had made a Hannibal Lecter-style phone call, threatening to destroy her and sue for defamation. The email, they argued, was sent on legal advice to calm him down. But that defense falls apart pretty quickly. Even if the threat was real, the content of the email goes way beyond a simple legal appeasement. It reads like a heartfelt apology. She even suggested she was forced to disown him to protect her career, writing, "I was instructed to act with the utmost speed if I would have any chance of holding on to my career." This Supreme Friend email wasn't a one-off. The leaked messages revealed a pattern of fawning and financial desperation. In other emails, she reportedly called him a legend and joked, "I am at your service. Just marry me." This wasn't a one-time gigantic error of judgment. The emails painted a portrait of a willing participant who understood Epstein's value to her financial survival and was ready to flatter and apologize to him in private, all while putting on a completely different face for the public. The contradiction is staggering. Publicly, she abhorred pedophilia. Privately, she was humbly apologizing to a convicted sex offender for letting him down and praising him as a supreme friend. This is the poison from which there is no recovery. It demonstrates a level of hypocrisy that people simply cannot forgive, especially from someone whose entire post-divorce identity was built on public trust and goodwill. The emails weren't just receipts of a terrible friendship. They were the demolition order for her public life. It's clear that unpacking scandals like this requires a deep dive into the facts and timelines. If you appreciate this kind of detailed analysis and want to see more on the stories that shape the public perception of powerful figures, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. For 13 years, the Supreme Friend email remained a secret, a ticking time bomb under Sarah Ferguson's carefully rebuilt public image. While rumors about her Epstein ties never fully went away, she kept going, publishing books and championing her charities. But in the fall of 2025, that bomb finally went off. The leak of her emails to the press triggered an immediate and devastating collapse of the charitable empire she had worked so hard to build. The fallout was swift and brutal. The very organizations that were the bedrock of her identity began to cut ties, one after another. Julia's House, a children's hospice where she was a patron, said it would be inappropriate for her to continue in her role. The Natasha Allergy Research Foundation said its founders were disturbed by the emails and dropped her. Prevent Breast Cancer, the British Heart Foundation, and the Teenage Cancer Trust soon followed. In total, at least 7 prominent charities publicly disowned her, all citing the impossible conflict between her praise for a convicted pedophile and the values they stand for. The final nail in the coffin came in early 2026, when her own charity, Sarah's Trust, announced it would be closing for the foreseeable future, a decision made after months of discussion following the leaks. This is the singular, unrecoverable blow. This is why Sarah Ferguson will never come back. Her past scandals were about personal failings, bad financial decisions, poor judgment, public slip-ups. They were survivable because they didn't destroy her core purpose. But this is different. Her entire redemption arc was built on her image as a dedicated philanthropist, especially for children's causes. By praising a man who preyed on children, she invalidated her life's work. The emails proved her public persona was, at best, a fragile act that could be compromised by money and, at worst, a cynical performance. The charities didn't just run from bad press. They ran from a moral contradiction they couldn't possibly endorse. How can a children's charity have a patron who called a child sex offender a supreme friend? The question answers itself. She didn't just lose board positions. She lost her entire reason for being in the public eye. Without the charities, what is her public role? Children's author? That's tainted, too. The loyal ex-wife of a disgraced duke? That only pulls her down further. The foundation is gone. There's nothing left to build on. The implosion of Sarah Ferguson's public life is completely tangled up with the downfall of her ex-husband, Prince Andrew, whose own disastrous friendship with Jeffrey Epstein led to his removal from public life. For years, they've presented a united front, living together at Royal Lodge and supporting each other through scandal after scandal. But that unity has now become a shared anchor, pulling them both into a permanent state of exile. Andrew was forced to give up his royal duties in 2019 after a train-wreck BBC interview, where he showed zero empathy for Epstein's victims and offered weak, unbelievable excuses. His fall was from a greater height, but they've landed in the same place. The revelations about Ferguson's fawning emails have only cemented the public's view of the Yorks as a package deal of disgrace. Their proximity to Epstein and their questionable judgment have made them toxic by association. Under King Charles, the monarchy has been trying to slim down and distance itself from the reputational damage the Yorks have caused. Andrew has been sidelined from major royal events, and multiple reports in late 2025 and early 2026 suggested he and Ferguson were served notice to vacate their longtime home at Royal Lodge. They are on the outside looking in, with no help from the institution to fix their images. The royal family cannot and will not rescue them. Their association with Epstein has made them liabilities the modern monarchy can't afford. Ferguson's scandal isn't just her own. It's the final chapter for the House of York, a story that ends not with a royal flourish, but with shuttered charities and a quiet retreat from public life. Sarah Ferguson has always been the Duchess of Disaster, the royal survivor who somehow kept bouncing back. She survived debt, divorce, and decades of tabloid headlines. But the Epstein scandal is a different kind of disaster. It's a terminal diagnosis for her public life. She can't recover this time because, for the first time, the scandal isn't just about her. It's about the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. While her past mistakes were self-contained embarrassments, this one ties her to one of the most monstrous crimes imaginable. Her private words, praising the man who committed those crimes, show a catastrophic moral failure that can't be excused by financial trouble or legal threats. More importantly, the leaked emails provided the receipts, the undeniable proof of her devastating hypocrisy. They gave everyone a glimpse behind the curtain, and what they saw was a woman willing to privately praise a convicted predator to protect her own interests, all while publicly claiming to be disgusted by his crimes. This scandal didn't just damage her reputation. It destroyed the very platform she was standing on. Her charity work was the only thing giving her public relevance and a story of redemption. By praising Epstein, she set fire to that story herself. There's no comeback from this, because there's nothing left to come back to. The trust is broken, the legacy is in ashes, and all that remains is a permanent, unforgivable stain.